All right, so we're diving into Alan Watts today.
Okay.
And you mentioned wanting to kind of get to knowledge quickly and thoroughly.
Yes.
So we're going to dive right in to some excerpts from his book, The Wisdom of Insecurity.
Okay.
Looking at his thoughts on anxiety and insecurity and really this human search for meaning, which feels so incredibly relevant know, in this crazy always-on world we live in.
Right.
So,
well, tell me a little bit about Alan Watts.
Yeah, he was a philosopher who became quite popular in the mid-20th century.
Okay.
And The Wisdom of Insecurity was published in 1951.
Got it.
And really captured kind of the anxieties of that time, the Cold War, the looming nuclear threat.
Yeah.
It's a period where the world felt very uncertain.
It's wild to think that even back then, people were struggling with these same feelings of insecurity that we see today.
Right.
Like, it's not a new thing.
No.
But Watts actually makes this point.
That our modern anxieties, these feelings of being adrift, of not knowing what to believe in, those aren't unique to our time at all.
Exactly. He says insecurity isn't a product of modernity.
Okay.
It's simply part of the human experience.
Interesting.
But in the face of this insecurity, people often react in one of two ways.
Okay.
Some find relief in kind of shedding those old constraints. Like, oh, thank goodness we don't have to believe that anymore.
Right.
While others worry that everything is falling apart.
Yeah, it feels very black and white, right?
Yeah.
So where does Watts fit in?
He proposes a third way.
Okay.
He calls for a revolution in thinking.
I like that.
Suggesting we embrace the present moment rather than clinging to the past or panicking about the future. This is where his idea of the backwards law of security comes in.
Okay, the backwards law.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it sounds intriguing, but also kind of counterintuitive.
So think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine you're trying to hold water in your cupped hands.
All right.
The tighter you squeeze, the more water slips through your fingers.
Oh.
It's the same with security. The more we grasp at it, the more insecure we feel.
So we're creating the very thing
Precise.
we're trying to avoid.
The act of clinging, of trying to control, actually generates resistance and pushes away the peace we're seeking.
Interesting.
Watts argues that true security comes from letting go.
Okay.
From accepting the ever-changing nature of reality.
So how does this connect to someone like you who's constantly seeking knowledge and understanding?
It's about recognizing that true understanding often emerges from embracing uncertainty, from letting go of the need for absolute certainty. It's like learning to ride a bicycle.
Okay.
You can read all the books about balance and technique, but until you actually get on the bike and experience the wobbles and falls, you won't truly learn.
So you're comfortable with the wobbles and the falls.
Exactly.
On the path to knowledge.
And this brings us to another key point Watts makes, the problem of time.
Okay.
He suggests that our awareness of time, specifically our focus on the future, is a major source of suffering.
So dwelling on what might happen robs us of the present moment.
Think about it.
Yeah.
If you're constantly worrying about a presentation next week, you're missing out on the opportunity to enjoy today.
Right.
That anxious energy actually steals away your present peace.
Wow.
For a problem that may never materialize.
It's like that old saying, worrying is like paying interest on a debt you may never owe.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We spend so much time living in our heads, obsessing over potential futures, that we disconnect from the richness of experience available right now.
Watts also talks a lot about the wisdom of the body.
Yes.
Something he believes we've lost touch with in our modern hyper-intellectual world.
Right.
And he uses this rather striking example to illustrate his point. He contrasts a primitive woman giving birth naturally with the experience of a civilized woman in a hospital, surrounded by technology.
Yeah.
What's he getting at with this comparison?
He's not advocating for abandoning medical advancements, but rather highlighting how we've become disconnected from our body's innate intelligence. We become so reliant on thinking and analyzing that we've forgotten to listen to the wisdom of our physical selves.
You know, it's funny. We often think of knowledge as something purely mental.
Yeah.
But Watts seems to be saying that true understanding involves the whole being, mind and body.
Think about it.
Yeah.
How often do you push through fatigue?
Oh, yeah.
Or ignore signals of stress in your pursuit of knowledge?
All the time.
Watts would say that this disconnect from our bodies can lead to disharmony and actually hinder our ability to learn and grow.
So how do we start tapping into this wisdom of the body?
It starts with paying attention. Notice the sensations in your body. What are you feeling?
Right.
Where are you holding tension?
Yeah.
Are you hungry, tired, thirsty?
Interesting.
Often our bodies are trying to communicate with us, but we're too caught up in our heads to listen.
It's like we need to cultivate a kind of inner awareness.
Exactly.
A sensitivity to what's happening within our own bodies.
And this awareness, this ability to be fully present in our bodies, is actually a key part of Watts' overall message. He believes that the path to peace lies in being fully present in the current moment, without clinging to the past or fearing the future.
Easier said than done, right?
He acknowledges that.
Yeah.
But he offers this powerful analogy to illustrate the point. He describes a sage standing at the door to heaven. The sage keeps asking, who is there? And only when the answer is, it is thyself, does the door open.
It's like a riddle.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
It's about recognizing that true understanding doesn't come from confronting insecurity, but from becoming insecurity itself. From fully embracing the unknown, the uncertain, the ever-changing nature of reality.
It's like he's saying that the key to unlocking the door to peace and understanding lies in letting go of our need to define and control everything.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this ties into another key concept from Watts. The limitations of language. He uses this simple yet thought-provoking example of trying to define a rose.
How does a rose fit into all of this?
He points out that no matter how many words we use, we can never fully capture the essence of a rose.
Right.
It's a mystery that transcends language.
Well, I see what he's getting at. It's like that feeling you get when you try to describe a beautiful sunset or a piece of music that moves you.
Right.
Words always seem to fall short.
Exactly. And Watts argues that our tendency to label and categorize, to divide the world into neat little boxes, actually creates a sense of separation between us and the world around us.
So he's suggesting that this constant need to define and categorize everything might actually be preventing us from truly experiencing the world.
Think about your desire for multiple perspectives. Watts would say that true understanding requires going beyond rigid labels and categories. Being open to the mystery and complexity of experience.
So it's about embracing the unknown, the undefined.
Right.
The things that can't be neatly packaged into words or concepts.
And this leads us to a topic that I find particularly fascinating, Watts' perspective on morality.
Oh, this is an area where I'm always looking for new insights.
Yeah.
What does Watts have to say about living a moral life?
He doesn't see morality as simply following rules or adhering to a rigid set of principles.
Got it.
He calls it creative morality.
Creative morality?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty different from the traditional view of right and wrong.
He's suggesting that true morality is about letting love flow naturally, rather than forcing it through obligation or fear of punishment. It's about recognizing that we are interconnected. That our actions have an impact on the world around us. And acting from a place of genuine compassion and understanding.
That reminds me of something you said earlier. About the importance of being present in our bodies. It's like he's saying that true morality can only emerge when we're fully present.
Exactly.
And connected to ourselves and to the world around us.
It's about responding authentically to each situation, rather than blindly following a set of rules. And this ties into your desire to be well-informed. Real understanding includes recognizing the limitations of any one system, any one perspective, even with morality.
So it's not about memorizing a set of rules, but about cultivating a way of being in the world that's grounded in compassion and understanding.
And this brings us to another area where Watts offers a unique perspective. Religion. He sees it not as a system of predictions or a set of beliefs about a supernatural realm, but as a symbolic representation of present experience.
So he's not talking about religion in the traditional sense of dogma and ritual. So what's he focused on then?
He's interested in the experience of the sacred. The mystery that exists within the everyday, within our own experience, right here, right now.
So in a way, he's taking the focus away from external authority
Exactly.
and pointing it back inward to our own direct experience of the world.
He distinguishes between the idea of the supernatural as a separate realm and the supernatural as the undefined mystery of reality itself. He's suggesting that the real wonder isn't found in some far-off heaven, but in the ordinary, everyday experiences that we often overlook.
It's like he's saying that the divine is all around us if we just open our eyes and pay attention.
And this can be especially helpful when we consider your desire to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Watts's view of religion offers a way to engage with spirituality without getting bogged down in dogma or rigid belief systems.
So it's about cultivating a sense of wonder and awe towards the world, towards life itself, without needing to subscribe to a specific set of beliefs.
Now that we've covered some of the core concepts from the Wisdom of Insecurity, I'm curious to hear what stands out to you so far. What resonates most with you? It's fascinating how all these ideas connect, isn't it? The backwards law, the problem of time, the wisdom of the body, and even his views on religion. They all point back to this idea of letting go, of surrendering to the present moment.
It's definitely making me rethink my relationship with knowledge. I always thought the goal was to gather as much information as possible, to have all the answers. But Watts seems to be saying that true understanding comes from a different place altogether.
He's challenging us to consider that the very act of seeking, of grasping for knowledge, might actually be a barrier to true understanding.
That's a pretty radical idea. So how do we reconcile this with our natural curiosity, our desire to learn and grow?
It's not about abandoning curiosity or the pursuit of knowledge. It's about shifting our approach. Instead of seeking to possess knowledge, we can approach learning with a sense of openness and curiosity, allowing ourselves to be transformed by what we encounter.
So it's less about accumulating facts. And more about cultivating a certain way of being. A certain openness to the world.
Exactly. And this brings us back to Watts' notion of creative morality, which we touched on earlier. He uses this rather provocative quote to illustrate his point. When a man gives bread in order to be charitable, lives with a woman in order to be faithful, eats with a Negro in order to be unprejudiced, and refuses to kill in order to be peaceful, he's as cold as a clam.
Wow. That's a pretty harsh image. What's he trying to convey with that?
He's highlighting the difference between actions that are motivated by duty or obligation versus those that arise from genuine compassion and understanding.
So it's not enough to simply follow the rules. We have to go deeper to examine our motivations and connect with a deeper sense of empathy.
Think about it. If you're helping someone solely out of a sense of obligation, are you truly seeing them? Truly connecting with their humanity? Or are you simply going through the motions?
I guess it's like the difference between giving someone a gift because you genuinely want to make them happy versus giving a gift because you feel like you have to.
Exactly. Watts is suggesting that true morality can't be forced. It can only emerge organically from a place of genuine love and connection.
But how do we cultivate that kind of love and connection? Especially in a world that often feels so divided and disconnected.
Watts would argue that the very act of trying to force ourselves to be loving can actually be a barrier to experiencing true love.
So it's like that backwards law again.
Precisely. He believes that love is an inherent part of our being. And it can only truly emerge when we stop trying to control it, when we let go of the illusion of a separate self that needs to be protected and defended.
That's a powerful idea. It's not about forcing ourselves to be something we're not. But about removing the obstacles that prevent our natural capacity for love from flowing freely.
And this brings us back to Watts' critique of our obsession with time. He argues that this constant focus on the future, on planning and worrying, prevents us from fully experiencing the present moment. The only place where true connection and love can exist. He makes this interesting comparison between how animals and humans approach desire. Animals eat when they're hungry, stop when they're full. They engage in sexual activity when their bodies are ready and don't dwell on it when they're not.
So they're simply responding to their immediate needs. Without all the mental baggage that we humans tend to carry around.
Exactly. But humans, with our complex brains and awareness of time, tend to complicate things. We eat with our brains, not our stomachs. Often driven by anxiety about future scarcity or the pursuit of some abstract idea of pleasure,
Right.
we approach sex with a similar anxiety,
Yeah, okay.
often getting caught in our heads instead of being present with the physical sensations
Yeah.
and the connection with our partner.
So he's saying that our thoughts and anxieties actually get in the way of fully experiencing life.
He's suggesting that by clinging to this illusion of control,
Okay.
by constantly trying to manipulate the future,
Right.
we miss out on the richness and beauty of the present.
Yeah.
We become slaves to our thoughts and anxieties rather than masters of our experience.
But how do we escape this trap?
Yeah.
It's so ingrained in our culture to be future-oriented.
Right.
To always be striving for something more.
It starts with awareness.
Okay.
Noticing when our minds are pulling us away from the present moment. And then gently, without judgment, bringing our attention back to our senses, to our bodies, to the experience of simply being here now.
That sounds like a lifelong practice.
It is, but it's a practice that can bring immense rewards.
Okay.
When we're able to let go of our anxieties about the future, we free up energy to fully engage with the present moment.
Right.
To experience life with more vibrancy and joy.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about Watts's emphasis on the wisdom of the body.
Yeah.
How does that tie into all of this?
He argues that this disconnection from the present also manifests in our relationship with our bodies.
Okay.
We neglect our body's natural wisdom. Its signals and rhythms in pursuit of mental gratification or some future goal.
So we're not just disconnected from the present moment, but also from our own physical selves.
He points to our reliance on technology as an example.
Oh?
We surround ourselves with gadgets that do the work of our bodies.
Right.
From cars to dishwashers to computers. And while these tools can be helpful, they can also contribute to this sense of separation from our physical selves.
It's like we're trying to transcend our physical limitations to become something more than human.
Right.
But in the process, we lose touch with the very source of our being, the ground of our experience.
And this brings us to Watts' perspective on religion.
Okay.
Which I think offers a really interesting way to think about all of this.
I'm really intrigued by his views on religion.
Yeah.
He seems to approach it from a very different angle than most people.
He sees it not as a set of beliefs about a supernatural realm, but as a symbolic representation of present experience.
Okay.
He argues that the true mystery, the divine,
Yeah.
isn't something separate from the world,
Right.
but is the world itself experienced fully and completely in this present moment.
So instead of looking for God in some far-off heaven,
Yeah.
he's saying that the divine is right here in the everyday experiences of life.
He's pointing out that the real wonder isn't found in some mystical realm,
Right.
but in the ordinary everyday experiences that we often overlook. He uses this playful example of trying to define a rose.
Yeah.
No matter how many words we use, we can never fully capture the essence of a rose.
Right.
And it's the same with trying to define God or reality.
Yeah.
The more we try to grasp it with our minds, the more it eludes us.
So it's about acknowledging the limitations of language, the limitations of our conceptual minds.
Right.
True understanding comes not through thinking,
Yeah.
but through direct experience,
Yeah.
through being fully present with what is.
And this brings us to one of Watts' most challenging and perhaps most liberating ideas.
Correct.
The concept of losing the self.
Okay.
He suggests that the search for a fixed, unchanging self is a trap.
Yeah.
And that true freedom comes from letting go of the I.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
It's hard to even wrap my mind around what that would mean.
It's a radical idea, and it can be difficult to grasp conceptually. But it's at the heart of Watts' philosophy.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that the self we so desperately cling to is an illusion, a construct of our minds.
So all those things we worry about,
Yeah.
our reputation, our achievements, our possessions, they're all part of this illusory self that we're clinging to.
And by letting go of this illusion, by surrendering to the flow of experience, we open ourselves to a deeper, more authentic way of being.
Okay.
We no longer need to defend and protect a self that doesn't truly exist.
Right.
We become free to simply be, to experience the world with an open heart and mind.
Yeah.
Think of it like stepping out of a cramped, dark room and into the vastness of the open sky.
I can almost feel that sense of relief, that feeling of spaciousness, just imagining it.
Exactly. And in that space, in that openness,
Yeah.
we discover a new kind of freedom.
Okay.
A freedom that comes from recognizing our interconnectedness with everything around us. We're no longer separate, isolated individuals,
Right.
but part of something much larger. Something mysterious and awe-inspiring.
It's a beautiful idea,
Yeah.
but it also feels incredibly daunting.
It is.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to let go of something that feels so fundamental to who we are? It's not about erasing the self entirely,
Okay.
but about recognizing its true nature,
Yeah.
its fluidity and interconnectedness with everything else. It's a process of gradually shifting our perspective,
Okay.
of loosening our grip on that fixed sense of self,
Right.
and allowing ourselves to experience the world with more openness and fluidity.
So it's not about becoming someone else,
Right.
but about discovering a deeper, more authentic version of ourselves.
And in that recognition, we find a new kind of peace. A peace that comes from accepting the impermanence and uncertainty of life.
Right.
It's about letting go of the struggle to control and secure a future that we can never truly know,
Yeah.
and embracing the mystery and beauty of the present moment.
It's about living fully authentically and with an open heart, knowing that we are not separate from life, but our life itself unfolding in each and every moment.
It's like that feeling of getting completely lost in something you love,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's music, art, nature, or even a deep conversation.
You forget about yourself, about time,
Right.
and you're just completely absorbed in the experience.
And in those moments, we often experience a deep sense of peace and connection.
Yeah.
It's like the boundaries between ourselves and the world dissolve,
Right.
and we're left with a feeling of wholeness and completeness.
Watts argues that this is our natural state,
Exactly.
that the feeling of separation is an illusion created by our minds.
He compares it to a young man seeking spiritual enlightenment,
Okay.
who complains to his teacher that he hasn't received any instruction.
Right.
The teacher replies, "When you brought me my rice, didn't I eat it? When you brought me my tea, didn't I drink it? When you made salutations to me, didn't I return them?"
The teacher is highlighting the fact that enlightenment isn't about some grand revelation, but about being fully present and attentive to what's happening in each moment.
Exactly. The instruction is in the everyday.
Right.
In the simple act of being present and attentive to what is happening in each moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about seeking some special state of enlightenment, some grand revelation,
Right.
but about recognizing the sacredness of ordinary experience.
So it's about finding the extraordinary within the ordinary, the divine within the mundane.
And this doesn't mean we should abandon thinking or planning altogether.
Okay.
Watts acknowledges that our minds are powerful tools,
Sure.
and that language, logic, and memory are essential to human life.
Right.
But he cautions against becoming slaves to our thoughts, against letting our minds run wild with anxieties and worries about the future.
It's about finding a balance
Right.
between using our minds effectively and not letting them control us.
He also points out that our obsession with classifying and labeling,
Yeah.
with trying to fit everything into neat little categories, can actually be a barrier to true understanding.
He uses that example of trying to define a rose again, right? No matter how many words we use, we can never fully capture the essence of a rose.
Right.
It's a mystery that transcends language.
And it's the same with life with the universe.
Yeah.
The more we try to define and control it,
Okay.
the more it eludes us.
So it's about embracing the unknown, the undefined,
Yeah.
the things that can't be neatly packaged into words or concepts.
Watt suggests that true understanding comes not through analysis and dissection,
Okay.
but through direct experience, through being fully present and open to the mystery of what is.
Right.
And this brings us back to the concept of letting go of the I.
Okay.
It's not about annihilating the self,
Right.
but about recognizing its true nature,
Yeah.
its fluidity and interconnectedness with everything else.
It's about recognizing that the self we so desperately cling to is an illusion, a construct of our minds.
And by letting go of this illusion, we open ourselves to a deeper, more authentic way of being. We become free to simply to experience the world with an open heart and mind, without the burden of a self that needs to be protected and defended.
Right.
Watts describes this state as metanoia, which is an ancient Greek word that means a change of mind.
So it's not just a shift in thinking,
Right.
but a transformation of our whole being.
It's a state of wholeness of integration where the separation between I and the world dissolves. And in that state of wholeness, We discover a new kind of freedom.
Okay.
A freedom that comes from recognizing our interconnectedness with everything around us. We're no longer separate, isolated individuals, but part of something much larger, something mysterious and awe-inspiring.
It's a beautiful vision and one that resonates deeply with me.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, it's a lot to take in.
It is, and it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
But even taking a few small steps in this direction
Yeah.
can make a world of difference.
So where do we go from here? What can we do to start integrating these ideas into our lives?
I think the first step is simply awareness.
Okay.
Noticing when our minds are pulling us away from the present moment.
Right.
When we're caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past.
And then gently bringing our attention back to the present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To the experience of simply being here now.
And there are many practices that can support this shift in awareness.
Right.
Meditation, yoga, spending time in nature.
Yeah.
But it can also be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, noticing the sensations in your body, or really listening to someone when they're speaking to you.
Exactly.
So it's about cultivating a sense of presence in every aspect of our lives.
And as we become more present, we naturally begin to let go of those anxieties and fears that keep us trapped in the past or future. We start to experience life with more joy, more vibrancy,
Right.
and a deeper sense of connection to ourselves and the world around us.
It's a beautiful vision and one that I'm definitely inspired to explore further.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself and celebrate each small step you take in the direction of greater peace, presence, and connection.
Thank you for sharing these insights with me.
Of course.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
It's been my pleasure, and I encourage you to continue exploring Watt's work.
Okay.
There's so much wisdom to be found in his writings and lectures.
It's amazing how Watts brings together all these ideas.
Yeah.
You know, insecurity and time and the body, morality, religion.
It's all connected.
It's like he's painting this grand tapestry of human experience.
Yeah.
And showing how it's all interconnected.
He had a remarkable ability to kind of synthesize Eastern philosophy with Western thought to make these ancient wisdom traditions accessible to a modern audience.
And he does it with such humor.
Oh, yeah.
And wit, too. It's not dry or academic at all.
He truly believed that life was meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
That the path to enlightenment wasn't about renouncing the world, but about embracing it fully with all its messiness and contradictions.
And that kind of brings us back to this concept of losing the self, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
It's such a radical idea.
It is.
And it can be challenging to wrap our minds around.
Yeah.
But it's really at the heart of his philosophy, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that the self we so desperately cling to, that sense of I that we spend so much time and energy defining and protecting, is ultimately an illusion.
So all those things we worry about, our reputation, our achievements, our possessions, they're all part of this illusory self that we're clinging to.
And in clinging to this illusion, we create suffering. We constantly compare ourselves to others. We strive for things that we believe will bring us happiness, but ultimately leave us feeling empty.
It's like we're chasing after a mirage, thinking that if we can just achieve that next goal, acquire that next possession, we'll finally be happy.
But true happiness, true freedom, comes from letting go of that chase. From surrendering to the present moment and recognizing that we are already whole and complete just as we are.
You know, I think that's what resonates with me the most about Watt's work is this invitation to let go of the struggle, to stop trying to control everything, and to simply embrace the beauty and wonder of life as it unfolds.
And it's not about becoming passive or apathetic. It's about recognizing that true power comes not from forcing our will upon the world, but from aligning ourselves with the natural flow of life.
It's about becoming more like that primitive woman giving birth naturally, trusting in the wisdom of the body, the intelligence of life itself.
Exactly. It's about letting go of the reins and allowing ourselves to be carried by the current, knowing that we are ultimately held and supported by something much larger than ourselves.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the wisdom of Alan Watts, what are some key takeaways?
I would say the most important takeaway is this. The path to peace, joy, and true understanding lies in letting go of the illusion of control. Embracing the present moment. And recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
It's about shifting our focus from the pursuit of external achievements to the cultivation of inner peace and awareness.
And it's a journey that requires constant attention and effort.
Sure.
But one that ultimately leads to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
So listener, as you go about your day today, I encourage you to remember Watts's wisdom.
Notice when your mind is pulling you away from the present moment.
Right.
When you're caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past.
And gently, without judgment, bring your attention back to the present.
Notice the sensations in your body, the sights and sounds around you, the simple act of breathing.
Remember that you are not separate from life,
but are part of something much larger, something mysterious and awe-inspiring.
And in that recognition, may you find a sense of peace, joy, and connection that transcends the limitations of the self.
That's it.
And opens you to the infinite possibilities of the present moment.